Hey, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into a really big, kind of confusing question. We all say we want freedom, right? But when things get a little shaky, why do so many of us seem to sprint in the exact opposite direction? Straight into the arms of security and control. It's a paradox that pretty much defines our modern world. So let's try to make sense of it together.
So yeah, this is the big mystery we're going to unpack. On the surface, it makes absolutely no sense. Freedom is supposed to be the goal, the thing we fight and die for. And yet, over and over again, we see people, even whole societies, willingly trade it away. What is going on here?
Well, the brilliant psychoanalyst Erich Fromm actually gave this a name. He called it the escape from freedom. And what he figured out was that real, genuine freedom, it's not easy. It comes with this heavy mental baggage. The weight of constant choice, the risk you might fail, the anxiety of not knowing what's next. And sometimes that load just feels so heavy that we start looking for an escape hatch.
Now, this urge to escape doesn't just happen in a vacuum. Nope. There are always forces out there, in politics, in the media, even in our own personal relationships, that are total experts at exploiting this fear. So, how exactly do they do it? The number one tool in their playbook is a little something called FUD. It stands for fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And the goal is super simple. Create an atmosphere where everyone feels like there's a constant threat. Because when people are scared, they stop thinking critically. They just start looking for a strong leader, anyone, to come and save them.
And what's really wild is just how methodical this whole process is. Step 1, you create an enemy. An us versus them story, where they are the source of all our problems. Step 2, you offer incredibly simple, black and white answers to really complex issues. And finally, step 3, you build what's called a golden cage. You offer comfort, safety, predictability, but the price of admission is your own freedom.
And this is the real million-dollar question, isn't it? It's one thing to see the playbook, but why do we keep falling for it? Why is it so darned effective? To answer that, we have to go way deeper than politics. We actually have to look inside our own heads. You see, the answer is hiding in the ancient software that's running in all of our brains. We're all just walking around with a mind that was designed for a very, very different and, frankly, a much more dangerous world.
This right here, this is one of the most important things you can ever understand about how humans work. Our brain's number one job isn't to rationally analyze the world for some kind of objective truth. No, its primary job, hardwired over hundreds of thousands of years, is just to keep us alive. And keeping us alive often means taking shortcuts. And this slide just illustrates the most powerful shortcut of them all, tribalism. The second our brain senses a threat, it instantly, and I mean instantly, categorizes the entire world into us and them. Us feels like safety, trust, belonging. Them feels like a threat, suspicion, and danger. This isn't a logical thought process. It's a lightning-fast, emotional, gut-level survival instinct.
And this tribal thinking is so powerful because, well, it's efficient. It's a hack. It saves precious mental energy. The second we get scared, our primitive brain, this little part called the amygdala, it just takes over and shuts down our rational thinking. And here's the kicker. It lets us justify taking away the freedom of the other group because we reframe it in our heads. It's not an attack. It's just self-defense for our tribe.
Okay, so we've got this ancient hardware in our skulls, totally primed for fear and for tribalism. But that's just the potential, right? The actual program that tells us who to fear and what security looks like and exactly when to trade our freedom, well, that program gets installed really, really early. The answer, as it so often does, begins in childhood.
I absolutely love this analogy. Our brain is the hardware we're all born with. But our childhood experiences, especially what we absorb from our parents, that's the very first operating system that gets installed on it. And that system, it forms the foundation for how we're going to respond to the world for the rest of our lives.
And here's the truly tragic irony in all of this. Parents, with the absolute best intentions, that primal need to protect your kids, they often end up just passing down their own fears and their own survival strategies. The problem is, the strategies that worked for them might be completely useless, or even worse, harmful in the crazy, fast-changing world their children are actually living in.
Just look at this contrast. A parent might have grown up in a world where stability, a safe job for life, was the ultimate goal. But they're trying to prepare a child for a world where adaptability is the only real key to survival. They grew up where information was hard to find. Their kid is literally drowning in it. They were taught to respect authority, no questions asked. Their child needs critical thinking just to navigate the chaos of misinformation.
Okay, so we've kind of figured out the root of the problem. We've got ancient brains running on outdated software. So, is there a way out? Is there a path forward? Is it possible to break this cycle and maybe raise a generation that doesn't run screaming from freedom?
Now, this is the question most people jump to. They think, okay, the solution must be to become a better manager of my kid's life, to control all the inputs more carefully so I get a better output. But what if that's the wrong goal entirely? What if that's part of the problem?
So let's compare two different models. On one side, you've got the parent as manager. They're focused on control, rules, preventing failure, and actively trying to shape and form the child into something specific. But on the other side, you have this really radical alternative, the parent as a beacon. Now think about a beacon, like a lighthouse. It doesn't chase ships around. It just stands firm, shines its own light authentically, and by doing that, it shows other ships where the dangerous rocks are, its own boundaries.
So, the whole point here is that the beacon's approach is about being, not about doing. It's about being available for your child, but not constantly intervening and fixing everything. It's about not barking commands about their life, but instead just being super clear about your own boundaries. You see, the most powerful lesson a child will ever learn is simply by watching you, the parent, live an authentic, responsible, and self-respecting life.
This quote just nails it perfectly. A child doesn't learn respect by being commanded to be respectful. A child learns respect by watching their parent respect themselves enough to not let their own boundaries be crossed. That self-respect is the greatest lesson of all. But even if you master this whole beacon approach, there is one final, really subtle trap, and it comes from the most loving place you can imagine. That simple, powerful wish for our children to be happy.
Wow. This is so profound, isn't it? When we tell a child, look, I don't care what you do with your life as long as you're happy, we think we're giving them total freedom. But what we're actually giving them is a job. The job is, you must be happy so that I, your parent, can feel okay. So what happens when that child is inevitably sad or angry or lost? They can't come to us because they feel like they failed at their one and only mission. Our best intention becomes their invisible cage. And this leads us to the final, really pivotal question. What if our goal isn't to engineer our children's happiness, but instead to help them become whole? Just imagine a person who has the freedom to feel everything, the joy and the sadness, the success and the failure, and knows that they are loved and accepted through all of it. That person doesn't need a golden cage. They don't run from the responsibility of choice. They have a deep internal security that allows them to embrace true liberty. And maybe, just maybe, a society full of whole people is the only real answer to the freedom paradox.